I'll be talking to you today about this piece by Stalin's piano. Artists and politicians often seem to overlap. Artists may concern themselves with plans to change society, to influence the way that we live, to voice resistance like Billie Holiday singing Strange Fruit, or to form new plans for society, as politicians do as well. Politicians may hone their parliamentary performances or concern themselves deeply with ways to foster or control the arts, and are often friends. And so I wanted to put artists and politicians together in a juxtaposition with what I like to call voice portraits, which is a type of music which is focused on listening very carefully to the spoken intonation of speakers and finding the music in there and then using that as the basis for the music. My own particular predilection is to not do editing of the speech, but to have it, so this is having recorded speech present with a live performer, in this case a pianist, and making the music from the recorded speech, and then trying to find ways of creating networks of meaning through combining live performance with documentary materials. And the way that works out is that I spend a lot of time, I think it's this embodied knowledge. I've been doing it for a long time now, since 1999, and just you sort of learn new things, you develop skills. It's also just by doing a lot of tinkering and playing, and it's also by being... Sorry!
Tinkering.
Yeah, and like doing what you guys were just doing, having fun and just playing with it. But there's also, so like this is for instance, playing with a recording of Susan Sontag and finding the speech melody, playing along with it, and then trying different, you can see there accompaniment sketch 2, alternative left hand, trying different possibilities for accompanying it until you find one that you like. This is Julia Gillard's speech, which I put in with the choir. So eventually I just wrote out transcribed the speech melody and then find harmonies which worked. Not now, not ever. Find a pulse which you think works. There's often more than one possibility, but finding one which works in a sweet spot. It's also informed by doing a lot of reading in science. And there's been an explosion since the beginning of this century of understandings of, scientific understandings of how prosody in speech has a lot of cognitive resources shared with musical understanding. And of course music and speech are both big collections of lots of different things cognitively, like pulse understanding, hierarchical pitch and beat and all sorts of things. And then also how speech and music both share a lot of emotional cues, the same sort of emotional cues. So and the specifics of how that works can be very, very useful in directing myself towards what I can play with and what will sort of work, where there's flexibility, where you can prime the audience to sort of hear things in a way that you maybe would like them to hear or that you hear them, what things are going to make an emotional impact. So I'm very interested in finding something which is very meaningful for myself as a composer when I'm playing with these things, and I don't usually let something go out until I've been quite emotionally moved myself, and I'm always very blessed to find that there's people in the audience who get emotionally connected with these things. I find it as a way of intensifying history, and so I guess amplifying the emotions and making it more ritualized and more sort of heavy, or just juicier. That's a horrible word, sorry, new age word, but it sort of makes sense, doesn't it? Okay, so, can I turn that up a little bit? I'll just introduce this one a little bit. This is Percy Grainger. These guys are going to be playing a 2-piano version of this tomorrow. I'll just play an excerpt from it, and this is Percy Grainger, and here you'll hear that just the piano is doubling the speech quite strictly until a little bit of repetition comes in. That's one way to turn speech into music, just pure repetition. It's very simple. That's been well studied by psychologists. And then it sort of goes off into pure music. Have a listen to it. I think it intensifies. It's also the discourse between the interviewer and Percy Grainger. This is from a radio interview in 1951, was it? Anyway, early 50s. Got a bit of an early 50s focus in this today, actually. And they get entrained with each other. They get into the same pulse. They get into the same actual key. In fact, it's really interesting. So that bringing it out intensifies the humour a bit, or it just makes it more. I find it intensifies it.
Mr. Grainger, you've been called the one cheerful, sunny composer living. To what would you attribute the warmth and the naturalness of your music? My music is consistently warm and natural, but I think the impression that it's, cheerful, comes from people not knowing the words of my compositions, but I think I'm doing the words. You thought they were misinterpreting, like you said before. piece out of 20. And that one piece happens to be lively, and they like that. They ignore the other pieces, generally, well, you don't actually feel morose, you yes, I do. You do. I enjoy it very much. You enjoy feeling sad? Well, I think that's wonderful. I mean, if you enjoy being sad, you should be. Yeah, it's just a question of whether I enjoy too much of it. And I think music is the art of agony. 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 Music is after all derived from screaming. Sound derived from laughing. Rather than screaming. And I really think most music originated in trying to placate hostile deities. Well, certainly like a Chinese banging a drum in the storm. And screaming with fear and screaming in supplication is also very powerful. The music is, of course, the child of all that. Music is after all derived from screaming. Music is after all derived from screaming. Sound derived from laughter. Music is after all derived from screaming. Sound derived from laughter. Music is after all derived from screaming. Music is the art of agony. Music is the art of agony. From screaming. I think the best thing for a composer is to be badly treated and never write.
A composer to be badly treated was Dmitri Shostakovich.
So it goes on and then talks about this story of Shostakovich's treatment at the hands of Stalin. Now this is an interesting thing. So I just wanted to say the genesis of this piece was that Liam and Anna played this piece as a two-piano version, and Sonia, the pianist here, Sonia Lishitz, came to the concert at UQ actually, and she said, "Oh Rob, you've got to make a solo version of this," and I said, "Oh, I better check with Liam and Anna." And I did write this solo version, and then she said, "Well, oh look, that's great. I want more." So we were on tour together actually. She was playing in my ensemble. We were just on these long tour bus trips, and we kept talking about all the possibilities. And I said, "Oh, you know, for a composer to be badly treated, you know, that sounds like Shostakovich. He was very badly treated." And he said, "Oh, why can't we do something about that story?" And I love this pianist, Maria Udina. She was amazing because she defied Stalin. You know, Stalin absolutely loved her playing. And there's this story in Shostakovich's book, not necessarily by him. It's a bit dodgy whether he wrote it or not, but actually there has been some confirmation that it's a very likely story to be true. And that's that Maria Udina, the pianist, was playing Mozart's 23rd Piano Concerto one night. Stalin was listening in 1944, and he demanded a record of the concert be brought to him. But there was no record because the concert had been live, and they had to stay up all night, going through 3 different conductors, all scared out of their wits to make the recording. Then a film came out this year, which starts with that scene, which is called The Death of Stalin, which came out like about a year and a half after we had presented this story in the concert. So it's sort of strange, there's this zeitgeist or something maybe about it. Anyway, so that story became the central point. I started thinking about all these other networks of connections. So we made lists of hundreds of artists and politicians who we could combine. Another one was Goebbels, of course, and people like Leni Riefenstahl, and we settled down on Goebbels and Thomas Mann. So I'll show you a bit of Goebbels. So as I was saying, we've got artists and politicians in juxtaposition. This one was a little bit of a trial and error one to find what I eventually was happy with as a representation of Goebbels. I found a speech of him saying the true politician is an artist, which I thought was greatly on topic, you know. There was another one by Mann where he was talking about how his great contribution was to actually warn people of the Nazis, and this was a broadcast he made before the Second World War, so he put those two together. And so he listened to this speech. At first I was going to write a very dissonant, sort of confronting accompaniment, but it sort of sounded cliched and wrong. What really worked in the end was to listen to what he was doing, and he actually does outline these triadic progressions, I heard it as, which is like chord 1, chord flat 6 back to 1, and then I said, well, let's just do another chromatic median, make it Wagnerian. He loves chromatic medians. Not only Wagnerian, but also this very commonplace convention in Hollywood of using chromatic medians to depict heroism. And you know, so it's like from his perspective. Have a listen to his speech.
Auch der wahre Politiker ist im letzten Sinne des Wortes ein Künstler.
So play it again, so it's
Auch der wahre Politiker ist im letzten Sinne des Wortes ein Künstler.
Now it's a little, you know, sometimes a bit ambiguous what the pictures are, but it very much fits into that chromatic median progression. Have a listen to what. So then it gets very entrained. I started off with this catchphrase, you know, like the chorus as it were, and then the verses can be a bit looser, you know, as it were. But it's strictly staying with those chords, and then you set up the style for the movement and other things. You can get some consistency, and you can get the audience entrained. They don't have to keep chopping and changing all the time. They can get into a bit of a groove, and then the emotions can flow through. Have a listen. This is quite buzzy, this sound, but I'm not sure what I can do about it.
Die Masse ist an sich Rohstoff. Sie zu gestalten und aus ihr jene Kräfte herauszuholen, die Systeme stützen und neue Welten aufbauen. Wird die erste und vorliebste Aufgabe jeder Staatsmenschenbegabung sein. Auch der wahre Politiker ist im letzten Sinne des Wortes ein Künstler. Auch der wahre Politiker ist im letzten Sinne des Wortes ein Künstler. So wie der Bildhauer den rohen Marmor abzirkelt, verhaut und meißelt, so formt der Staatsmann aus dem rohen Stoff Masse ein Volk. Gibt ihm ein inneres Gerippe und ein haltendes Gefüge und bläst ihm dann jenen schöpferischen Odem ein, der das Volk zur Kulturnation emporwachsen lässt. Auch der wahre Politiker ist im letzten Sinne des Wortes ein Künstler. Auch der wahre Politiker ist im letzten Sinne des Wortes ein Künstler. Auch der wahre Politiker ist im letzten Sinne des Wortes ein Künstler. Wir Nationalsozialisten sind keine Handwerker der Politik. Wir sehen in Tagesfragen und Tagesnöten zwar einen Teil der uns obliegenden Sorgen, aber darüber steht doch ein Wille und darunter liegt eine Idee, die Tagesfragen und Tagesnöten erst den echten Sinn und auch die einzige Lösungsmöglichkeit geben.
So this is an hour-long piece, which is just this constant juxtaposition between artists and politicians. Now, it's not all saying that you know, the politicians are wonderful and evil, and the artists are great. It's hopefully a little bit less black and white than that. For instance, Le Corbusier here, who is being celebrated as an artist, but there's a bit of question about the legacy of some of his work, perhaps. So there is some, I guess, editorializing here, because the music tends to sort of emphasize perhaps what could be seen as a rather idealistic, perhaps naive sort of stance in view of some of the influence of some of his work. It's not necessarily criticising him, but it's thinking that it's drawing out something which is already there. So this gets into quite a repetitive sort of way which tends to emphasise that. Let's have a listen.
I am a visual man. A man working with eyes and hands. My cities are green cities. My houses give sun, space and green. Sun, space and green. Sun, space and green. Sun, space and green. and such richness of life, sun, space, and green, you must take 2,000 people together, built in big house, with one entrance only for 2,000 people, so they will be quickly in their own home, where they will find silence and total solitude. Though they are 2,000 together, it is possible to have one vertical road, that is, 4 rapid lifts. And it is now this big task facing us, the occupation of the ground by human labor. The first industrial era began 100 years ago, and it was an age of chaos. The second industry era will be the era of harmony and is only just beginning. The whole world is ready. Open the eyes and the ears. And all things are now fluid.
I do have to just emphasise that there's no editing in this speech. That rhythm is there. I'm convinced there is isochronous speech in speech, but we'll have an argument with linguists about that. All right, so now we come to, I know we're probably just about out of time. How much time have I got?
0.
Oh, no, really?
No, you can take a few
Let's
minutes.
show this last one, because this is like the heart of it. Okay.
Oh, sorry, 20 minutes. You got 5. My bad.
Okay, good.
You got
We'll
5
finish with
minutes.
this. We're going to have to leave out Maria Yudiner's voice herself.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'll talk about this. So here we see Shostakovich and Maria Yudina and Stalin. They were friends. One of the things which happened, of course, so what happened was Stalin, Shostakovich wrote his opera, Lady Macbeth of Mostensk district, sorry if I mispronounced that Russian, and Stalin came along, listened to it in Bolshoi, didn't like the dissonances and didn't like the portrayal of the big captain, and wrote this, here he is in Pravda of the issue, there he is, on the front cover, and maybe he wrote this actual review himself, it's the editorial in that issue 936, Muddle instead of music. Shostakovich feared for his life, as a result didn't write any more operas. Here's the recording. This is the recording I mentioned before. They stayed up all night and made this recording, and it was retrieved later from Stalin's room, his Dasha country estate, and I got a hold of this recording, which is great. It's been released here. So I wanted to include that into the composition itself, and then I wanted to think about, well, how could you portray Stalin's connection with that? Well, he died in 1953, just a month or so before that he gave his final public speech. I got hold of that, and I want to weave that in with Yudina's recording of the Mozart. And I found quite stunningly that passage that I'd chosen, I was listening to it, I started to hear some of the patterns which would fit really well with the Mozart's in the same key, so I put that in. It was just a fortuitous accident, really. Here's a little bit of the film, by the way.
From my heart.
I wish to convey this recording into Comrade Stalin.
I want Comrade Stalin to know the full intensity of my feelings for him.
No, this is unauthorized narcissism. No. The item is now in my possession after a significant delay.
What took you so long? You fucking walked here.
So this film's done quite well because they put all the accents that we would be familiar with as English speakers, and so it makes it more like, Stalin's this sort of bubble boy, I like that. So this is the speech transcription of what I heard in Stalin's final speech, and it fit nicely with the Mozart. So we hear Yudina's recording of Mozart, we hear Stalin speaking along with it, and we hear Sonia playing along with Yudina. So it's like Yudina's, and then later on we hear Yudina's voice, but we won't have time for that now. So let's just watch this scene, and I'll just talk a little bit about it at the end.
Shostakovich feared for his life. His opera was immediately withdrawn, and he never composed another. One of Shostakovich's staunchest defenders was his friend, the pianist Maria Yudina. Many of her own friends lost to the labor gulag camps or worse. Yudina was defiant to the core, wearing her cross very visibly, championing the the most adventurous blacklisted works, and reading banned poets like Boris Pasternak and Nikolai Zabolotsky in her concerts. But she was Stalin's favorite pianist.
предприняла реальные меры по ликвидации капиталистического помещичьего гнета, представители братских партий, восхищаясь отвагой и успехами нашей партии, присвоили ей звание главной бригады мирового революционного и рабочего движения.
That they send the record to his Dutch. The committee panicked, but they had to do something. They called the Yudina and the orchestra and recorded that night. Everyone was shaking, that's right, except for Yudina, naturally. Yudina later said they had to send the conductor. He was so scared he couldn't think. They called in another conductor who trembled and got everything mixed up, confusing the orchestra. Only the third conductor was in any shape to finish the recording. Anyway, the record was ready by morning. They made one single copy, this one, and sent it to Stalin. They say that this recording of Mozart was on the record player when the great leader was found dead in his dacha. It was the last thing he had listened to.
I just want to talk about that ending there. It just takes up from the repeated high notes and the C sharps of Mozart, and then cuts short this leading record as soon as he dies, I guess. And I was thinking very much as a tribute in a way to Ligeti, which was filmed by the last film of Stanley Kubrick. Used this musical Richicato composed just at the same time as Stalin was doing all this. Let's listen to what Ligeti said about it.
He studied this
Just this one.
terroristic Hungary, where this kind of music was not allowed. And I just wrote it for myself. Stanley Kubrick understood the dramatism of this moment, and this is what he did in the film. And for me, when I composed it,